title of his, but
I'm just doing on the story of Esther in general.
going to do the story of Esther. Okay, so here we go. Here's Evans to teach about Esther. Take it away.
All righty. Welcome, everyone. It's a privilege to speak to you here. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite Bible heroes in the Bible. And she's one of the few female heroes in the Bible, but she's a very good one. Her name is Esther. And you might not know this, but Esther is actually the name she was given when she was in Persia. Her actual Hebrew name is Hadassah, Hadassah, and it means myrtle flower, and that means basically means righteousness and peace. And she was raised by her cousin Mordecai. So the story of Esther takes place in the Persian capital Susa during a big 180-day feast. During the feast, the current queen of Persia, Queen Vashti, refused to display her beauty in front of King Ahasuerus. So King Ahasuerus is the king of Persia, just so you know. So as a result of refusing to show herself in front of the king, King Ahasuerus disposed of her as the king. So now he had to find a new king, and Esther took the place of Queen Vashti. So after all this is what is happening, Mordecai uncovered a plot to assassinate the king. There were two conspirators trying to assassinate the king. Mordecai found them out, and they both got hanged as a result. Then the king appointed Haman as his viceroy, and Haman is the main antagonist of the whole story. So a viceroy basically is someone who assists in the king in ruling stuff. So Haman finds out that Mordecai is a Jew, and he goes on this mission to kill all the Jews in Susa. The king helps Haman write a royal decree that all Judeans will be executed on the 13th day of Adar, which is the last month of the Hebrew calendar. Now we're going to go back to the book of Samuel because First Samuel, because there's something significant there. Haman was an Amalekite. Back when the Judeans was one tribe, Saul was appointed as the first king of Israel. He was ordered by God to go to the Amalekites' camp and destroy every little living thing there. Every person there, every sheep, flock, everything that's breathing, it had to be destroyed. But as you know, Saul was disobedient, and he spared King Agag as well as some of the best livestock. And now we're going to turn to the book of First Samuel. And we're going to go to chapter 15. And we are going to go to verse 7. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comes to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and of the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refuse, they destroyed utterly. And then you know how the rest of the story goes. God was appalled at what Saul did. He disobeyed his orders. So God basically told Samuel to tell Saul that you're no longer going to be king. So Samuel had to actually finish the job of killing King Agag. So as you might see, the Amalekites were a sworn enemy of Israel. So going back to Susa, when Mordecai found out about the royal decree, he wanted Esther to go on the king on his behalf. However, there was a catch. Anyone who went to the king's courts uninvited would be executed. So all the Judeans in the city fasted for 3 days before Esther made the bold decision to go to the king. So she went to the king knowing that she went to the king uninvited, knowing that she could be executed on the spot. But the king did not execute her. Instead, the king spared her and presented his scepter. He then invited Esther to a feast, and during the feast, invites her to another feast the following night. Meanwhile, Haman, as suggested by his wife, prepared a gallows to hang Mordecai. One night, the king couldn't sleep, and he requested that the court records be read to him. And then he found out that Mordecai saved the king's life, but he was never recognized for it. Haman then tries to pull the trigger by telling the king to hang Mordecai, but then he tells Haman what should be done for the man of honor. He tells the king to have him dressed up like a king and have him ride around his royal horse, thinking that the king was referring to himself. The king, however, was referring to Mordecai. So at the end of the day, the joke was on Haman. So Esther, King Ahasuerus, and Haman attended the second feast. Esther then reveals that she is a Jew and tells the king that Haman is plotting to kill all of them. Enraged, the king goes to the garden to cool down. Then Haman uses this to his advantage to beg for his life. But when the king returns, he thinks that Haman is sexually assaulting Esther, resulting in him being hung in his own gallows. So now with Haman hung, Esther then requests the king to allow the Judeans to defend themselves. But since the king couldn't take back the royal decree that he wrote from Haman, he decided to create a new decree that would allow the Judeans to defend themselves. So when this decree was written, the whole city helped wipe out all the Amalekites. So as you can see, you don't mess with the Judeans. When Haman messed with the Judeans, not only did he got hung in his own gallows, his family got executed, and all of the Amalekites got executed. All because they went after the wrong people. So in conclusion, the story of Esther is like something you would see in a soap opera reality show. It had drama, it had intrigue, it had plot twists, and it had a lot of action. Esther was a sweet, beautiful, courageous woman, and she used her talents wisely to save her people and continue the legacy of the Judeans. And that is my teaching.
Very good.
That is really good. That was a good job, Evan.
He did a good job, Evan.
Speaking as a modern Judean, that was a good job.